Now, more than a month after Cyclone Pam struck Vanuatu, it would be all too easy to forget the devastation that was caused, particularly now the global headlines are dominated by the rising death toll in Nepal after the earthquake there. As the aid agencies call on people once again to be generous as far as Vanuatu is concerned, it's likely a compassion fatigue will start to take effect, even though the country will need international assistance for many months to come. But there are supporters in Australia who are determined to keep Vanuatu in the headlines and to keep the money flowing in. Just last weekend there was a charity concert in New South Wales organised by the Australian South Sea Islanders with strong Vanuatu connections, and round 7 of the Queensland Cup Rugby League season was dedicated to raising funds, with the Vanuatu captain playing in that competition. And next week here in Melbourne there's an event called the Party Against Pam, a mix of music and comedy featuring artists who are all donating their time to raise money for the people of Vanuatu. The acts include Tripod, and Scott Edgar from the comedy trio is with me this morning. Scott, welcome.
Hello Richard, how are you, mate?
I'm good, thank you. And it is nice to see that the momentum is continuing, because it is all too easy as the weeks tick by after a disaster like this that people forget. Plainly, you and the artists here want to make a stand and make a point.
For sure. We're very excited about doing this gig, and it's a hell of a lineup too. It's going to be a fantastic room full of Melbourne musicians and comedians, and looking at the list of people playing, that many people in that room will be a good party anyway, let alone them hopping up on stage periodically. So it's going to be a killer night. Kylie Aldist is on with her soul band, the Glenroy All Stars. That's going to be just magic, as well as ourselves. Tegan Higginbottom. The Sweets, who I saw the other day for the first time. I saw them down at Abbotsford Convent. That's an amazing band right there too. Sugar Canes, all sorts of great bands. It's going to be huge.
It's a bit of a combination of a bit of soul music, bit of funk music, bit of comedy. Kylie Aldis, of course, has connections with the Pacific Islands herself, so I guess she will feel very strongly about this campaign to raise money. But for you, I mean, how'd you get a laugh out of a natural disaster?
Most of our gigs have been natural disasters of one kind or another, Richard. I can't see us whipping up a particularly topical song for the night. I think what'll be fun about it, actually, because we've been spending the last sort of 12 months of our lives putting a commission together for the Melbourne Symphony Orchestra, which we did a couple of weeks ago. So that was an original show. So it'll actually be really nice to go back into the back catalogue and do some of our more sort of older tunes, and a bit more of an informal gig. It'll be fun.
I suppose also if you lighten the load, put people in a good mood, they're more inclined to put their hands in their pockets.
I'm hoping. That's been the theory that the career's been built on for some time. Hopefully that's going to pay off again on the 7th of May. It's going to be fantastic. It's at the Toff in town, which is a lovely venue in town.
Indeed. So anyone who may be heading to Melbourne next week from any part of the Pacific, it would be great to get along to the gig and perhaps make your own contribution. For you, I mean, how much do you know about Vanuatu? Has this been a learning curve for you?
Oh, absolutely. I've not. It's been one of my desires to go there, and I've not been able to do that as yet. I know a little bit about what's happened with the cyclone, of course, and something like 75,000 people have been still looking for shelter a month later, something like that. So I mean, it seems like as you say, I mean, there's what with Nepal, it's been it's very easy for a situation like that to move out of people's consciousness, and I think it's being as how Vanuatu is close to us in the region, and it sort of makes sense that we're all going to pull together. One feels at the moment that there, but for the grace of God, go we. Anything could happen in terms of what's going on with the climate at the moment, so it makes sense to help each other out, I think, because it could be that we need that anytime, sometime soon.
You make a very valid point, and I'm just thinking, because you're now involved in this fundraiser, and I presume you'll be following up on how much money is raised and where that money goes in Vanuatu. I know the organisers are being in close contact with officials and politicians in Vanuatu. They want to be sure that the money goes to the right place. I mean, what about taking a tour to Vanuatu? I mean, we're being told consistently on this program they want tourists to go back. They don't want Vanuatu to be ignored.
Oh, my hand is up for that one. I'll happily do that. I'd absolutely love to see more of the Pacific region. That's been something I've not been. As a comedian and a musician, my career's taken me to Western nations mainly, the States I've spent a bit of time in. You do the cycle back and forth to Edinburgh, in your youth, but I haven't been lucky enough to see too much of the South Pacific yet, and I would love to. Yeah, so anyone wants to take me on a tour to Vanuatu, my hand is absolutely up. My hat is in the ring for that one. No problems at all.
I suppose the challenge would be, on the one hand, playing to the expats wouldn't be so too much of a challenge,
sure.
but maybe getting the humour across the local population.
Yeah, that's always a concern, you know. And I mean, you never actually quite know what you're in for. We did a show a few years ago called Tripod versus a Dragon, which was a narrative kind of fantastical tale of kind of mythic proportion. It was a musical, and we got booked to do a gig in Poland, this one gig that they flew us over for as part of an arts festival in Poland, which was so strange, and we thought, we've got to try this and see what happens, you know, see what flies, see what doesn't. Turns out they do have dragons over there. And we were doing a gig, we did the gig with the surtitles. They had a translation on the screen, which was quite a singular experience, but people really enjoyed the show. But what we found that they were laughing before the jokes because they were reading the screen before we actually delivered half these jokes. So you never know. I adore putting ourselves and our work in those kinds of situations and seeing what flies. You're always surprised.
Okay, well, look, we wish you well with the fundraising event. It takes place at the Toff in town here in Melbourne, May the 7th. So if you're coming to Melbourne, do try and get along to that gig and help raise some funds for the Vanuatu relief effort, as well as Tripod with Scott, of course, Kylie Aldis and the Glenroy All-Stars. Kylie Aldis, sensational vocalist. She should be world famous. The Cactus Channel as well. They'd get you up and out of your seats. So get along if you can, and we wish you every success with that venue. Scott, thanks very much indeed for coming in.
No worries, Richard.
And that rounds out to Pacific Beat for this morning. We'll be back tomorrow at the usual time, 6:05 Eastern Australian time. John Bruce and the gang at 3:05.